right. Okay. Hello. Welcome. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I think this is our 7th podcast. And like normal, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff that everybody asks us to do. This is going to be a regular thing for Elizabeth and I, but right now we're just doing it to introduce speakers for the conference. So anyways, got 3 of them today. Super excited to introduce Simon, Matt, and Honey. These guys are like my wheelhouse. They're techies. They're, into the other stuff. It's not just like how do I rank a plumber type stuff. It gets a little bit deeper than that. So anyways, thank you everybody for being here. I appreciate your time. All right, let's start with Simon. Mr. Cornelius, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got in this wonderful game.
We'll start with me. So, I will tell people I'm the lazy person. So if you ever met people who are lazy, I'm super lazy. And I had a boss several years ago said, Simon, you're the laziest person I know. That was an extreme compliment because I know there's a bunch of stuff to do and I'm always looking for how do I make it more efficient? Not necessarily the quickest, but the most efficient. So I think all of us on here, at least today, and a ton of people are always looking for the right way to do things and get rid of the time factor and even the personal factor and the human mistake. So I'm the lazy guy of the group. So my background is a software engineer. So I love everything technical. That's where I thrive. And that's been with me since I was, a teenager for so many, many years. So a background in software development. I've been doing SEO, I think, probably started dabbling around in affiliate back in 2013, 2014. It's hard to say when I started officially, but I've been doing SEO now probably, I'd say 2016 officially. In fact, Terry, you and I go back, way back. We were having, what did we call ourselves? The 4 Musketeers or something? Mm-hmm. We had those like 2-hour Skype sessions back on every Sunday or something.
Yeah, I still have our electrician lead gen site that we built.
That's amazing how that still works all those years later, still pulling in leads. We do nothing to it.
Exactly, for sure.
And then remember our initial discussions about schema we had way back when schema was like, what the heck is this? The white papers, and you and I were sitting down around the Zoom one, I guess Skype at those times, figuring out schema.
Yeah.
Good. So yeah, I have an agency. I'm here in Dallas, not too far away from Honey. So I've got my own clients to do white label, got some SaaS tools, and I think that's enough about me. I could talk for an hour. So people will learn more about me when they attend the training, SEO Spring Training, which is only in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. That's crazy. You and I have been doing stuff together, I think, 6 years now or something like that. It's
been a long time. I had hair before I met you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly right. So now you don't. So it all lasts. So thanks for being here, Simon. I appreciate it. Miss Honey Witcher, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this game. I know you were forced into it.
I was a little bit. I went to college. I started out in engineering and discovered really quick that you can't be an athlete and go to engineering school successfully in the 80s. We didn't have computers and stuff that we used back then. I was going to school on a typewriter. But I got into construction. That's what I knew. And I built up a construction business. And in 2020, we all know the world turned upside down and it got to be a nightmare. I'd never been so busy in my life. Everybody was staying home and I was working my, ass off 16 hours a day and I was exhausted. And it actually just came down to a health decision. Lee was tired of seeing me, run myself ragged. And he said, you could work with me, and I was like, I don't even know what you do. I know it has something to do with computers and websites and ranking and that kind of stuff, but I never really paid attention to what he did. And he was like, you're perfect, for this industry. You've got the mindset, the brain, the problem solving skills, for it. And so I jumped in, and, I learned a lot of everything I know from Lee and Ted. And so I came in, learning from the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's how I got started. Now, Lee and I, we butt heads sometimes because I operate a little bit differently than he does. And I do have a lot of knowledge when it comes to construction. So when we're doing the lead gen sites and that kind of stuff, I understand that area very, very well. And I also know how to talk to people in that industry very well. And it's a huge benefit.
Yeah,
yes,
definitely. So, yeah, it's you're when I think there's maybe 2 or 3 husband and wife teams out there. So that's
there's not
cool.
many. A lot of people ask us about it. I think there's a lot of people who are interested in becoming husband and wife teams.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the things that we get asked enough about it. I'm sure you and Elizabeth do also.
Yeah.
That there are some people that are just like, tell us the secrets. Like, how did you guys manage? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm super hard and extraordinarily independent. And it was a struggle. It was a big struggle for me to go from an industry that I was the expert in into an industry that I didn't know anything in.
Yeah.
And, Lee kind of bossing me around and telling me what to do did not go over well. It didn't. It was ugly. He was super patient with me though, so that was the key.
Yeah,
Because
for
probably
sure.
if he wouldn't have been extra patient with my attitude, then it was tough in the beginning, but it's good now.
Yeah, good deal. So, well, welcome. I'm so excited to see you guys again. Obviously, we're all dear friends. So, but thank you for taking your time to come on this thing with us today. That's awesome. So, all right, Mr. Zimmerman, tell us a little bit about yourself. I met Matt, I don't know, a few conferences ago, and I didn't even know he was ZimWriter. I didn't put 2 and 2 together, and I kind of fanboyed after him after I found out he's ZimWriter because it's one of my favorite tools that I use or that we use. I think we have 4 licenses in our agency. But yeah, so it's super cool that you could not only come to spring training to speak, but take your time today to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, absolute pleasure. Yeah, so I'm a patent examiner. I kind of jump around from different careers. Former lawyer, former engineer, patent examiner now for 16 years, and I've been trying to get into the SEO space for I've been doing SEO, but kind of for myself, not for clients, for about almost a decade, and just doing affiliate sites and meandering around online doing various things. I probably wouldn't have spent so much time if I had got into a couple conferences and hooked up with the right people. That really can accelerate your growth, and that's one of my big stumbling blocks. I'm kind of like the solopreneur, like the definition of it, which can be nice, but can also hurt you in terms of growth. But so, yeah, I've been doing SEO for nearly a decade. And about a year ago, I decided to, fiddle around with making an SEO or an AI writer. And, one thing led to another, and the tool ZimWriter just kind of grew and grew. And now it's, one of the top, I guess, AI writers, if I can say that, in the industry, but for the lowest price. So it's really interesting position to be in. And it's a lot of fun too. So I work from home with my wife. She's also a patent examiner. I don't think we could do the whole thing together. It's because we're both really stubborn individuals. And it's hard when you're both you're both very opinionated people. So, so I stay in my little office and she's in her little office, but it's fun. It's fun working from home and doing, being an entrepreneur. It's great.
Is it obviously is ZimWriter different now than what you thought it would be when you started as far as growth? Did you start it to become a product for the masses, or did you more start it for a personal thing and then it just grew into the masses?
Yeah, it was more personal to begin with. I like to tinker with different things. I'm like things will catch my eye, and it's hard to stay focused on something. And so I'm not a software developer by trade, but I've coded in some various languages over time. And I started ZimWriter. What it was just a way to use AI anywhere on your desktop in any application or in any browser, any website, because I hated being confined to like copy AI's interface or phrases interface. They all have good things, but I didn't want to be confined to one of them. So I started tinkering around and was able to make it so that you could, access OpenAI's AI anywhere. And then I was like, well, and I actually started on a Mac. It started all on a Mac, but I couldn't package it up with what I was doing and sell it. So I was like, well, I know this language on the PC. Let me code it in there. And it initially just started out as a way to write with AI anywhere. And then people start asking for features. Let's write thousands of blog posts. Let's do SEO stuff. And then it just kind of morphed into what it is today.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's because you were how old is ZimWriter as far as when people were able to use it, like my agency and stuff?
Yeah, January 7th, 2023 was when we first released it. Well, I first released it.
That's pretty cool. And then obviously when ChatGPT became big, were you already in that space with ZimWriter, or did that add to more stuff you could do?
I don't know when ChatGPT was kind of coming around the same time, and it just provided another. One of the big limitations with ChatGPT is you're in that chat interface, and so it's really hard to do bulk stuff, and then it's really hard to create your prompts in there because they become biased based on the prior the whole string of conversations. So if you're like, oh, I've created this this really good landing page generator for my clients, but then you try to go back in there and reuse the prompt doesn't quite work as well because it's based on your whole conversation with the AI. So there's pros and cons to ChatGPT.
Exactly. Yeah, it's and that's the one thing that I learned at the beginning of ChatGPT is kind of personalize each chat with the brand, with the services, with but yeah, if you're just using one and all of a sudden you kind of change topics, it's not real well at changing things real quick.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When I was
oh, good, honey.
Oh, I was doing some testing. Everybody was freaking out about AI detection and all that kind of stuff. And I did a whole, series of tests on that. And not just whether it mattered or not, because I think that for the majority of the people in our community, we understand that it doesn't matter. But we were just checking. You have clients sometimes that use AI detection tools to like throw shit back at you, like, oh, this comes back 100% AI. Yeah. And so what I did is I really was testing the tools on how accurate they were. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I discovered some revelations just about, ChatGPT and Claude and some of these other AI writers, at the time, that you can use the same prompt, and clear your history and use it over and over again, and you'll still get where it just really just messes up really badly. So if you run the same prompt 20 times, about 25% of the time it completely screws up. But you can go in and run it again and it'll be perfectly fine. So it's just, it has little glitches in it. So sometimes you just have to run it. If you have a prompt that you love, that most of the time works, and it doesn't work one time, don't go in and change it. Just clear your history, run it again.
Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely, a matter of fact, they came out and said the last update they did at ChatGPT was more around the memory of the chats, and that can be good or bad, obviously.
Well, in industries like us, where we're jumping back and forth into different areas all the time, where we might be doing dog food, and then we're doing plumber, and then we're doing roofing, and you know, and maybe we're doing something completely different. Then it gets tricky, you know.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
If people have challenges with prompting, Matt's the guy to come and listen to, because I was talking with him just 3 weeks ago now. And if you get the right prompt and you get it, I think Matt said like 5 times. If you set the prompt up, you should get the 5 times repeated. It should give you the same output. It's got a lot better now. But yeah, your prompting is, you can't just ask ChatGPT now, write me a 1,000-word blog post article about hail roof repair. Right? It doesn't work anymore. So I'm glad people try to take the shortcuts with that, because it means less competition. And so to Honey's point about, you have these armchair SEO clients, I call them. They read a few sound bites here and there. So, well, go take a verse from the Bible and put it into an AI detector. Like, oh, it says it's like 85% AI written. Like, there you go. And that usually just stops, especially if they're very religious type of people. They'll like completely stop them. They'll never ask you again about where the content came from, never.
And that's powerful in our neck of the woods.
And exactly. I mean, it's just, and you think about the technology out there that you would have to design to detect AI. It's, especially, I mean, I'm also a software developer, so I'm sitting there thinking, okay, well, how can somebody design something to pick out a language that it doesn't know if it's true or not true? I mean, it's just like, really, I'm sure there's kind of signals or whatever they can do or whatever, but yeah, it's a crazy thing. And it's, I don't know, it's really helped our agency. I mean, we're just now dipping our toes into the image side. We figured we would kind of semi-master the content side first. So we're just now getting into the image side, and then we haven't even touched on video yet. Video is the one that I'm excited about. So that's the one that, especially video, automated shorts.
Since you mentioned video, I think, and maybe I could be way off, could be coming in much sooner, but within a year, I would imagine that you could make a full-length movie that will arrive. I mean, you see all the artists, the producers and writers, movie writers, actors guild, and all that going on strike because they know it's coming.
Oh yeah,
you have to produce.
They're ready to stop it. Yeah. I'm helping one of my large tech companies, IT companies. The owner's writing his 3rd book, and we're actually doing it through ChatGPT. It's pretty friggin' cool. But I think all that stuff's just going to be continually to grow and grow and grow. What is the future of SEO and AI? I have no freaking clue. I just keep doing what we do, and it just continues to work, and we continue to test, we continue to change. And, so that's how has AI kind of helped you, Simon, in your little software development stuff?
It's actually helped me a lot. I used to, even with my software background, I'm not the best software designer by a long shot. So I used to pay people on Fiverr, and I forget the other places I use. I still do use them, but it helps me a lot if I need to go whip up some code really quick. The thing I found with AI is that, and during my presentation, I'll talk about just dumbing it down, keep it super simple, the KISS method. Is you can't just use AI and give it a prompt and have it go off and create something wonderful. It just doesn't work. Just even on a page, right?
Yeah.
On a page, there's a structure, and I don't have a link I can share here today, but I will show it in the presentation. There's this actual structure of writing. I wish I would have paid more attention in school, because I would have learned this stuff years ago. But there's a structure to what goes on a page, and it's not rocket science. So when you are building a page, and ZimWrite is really good at this too, by the way, just to give him a plug, it will logically think about what goes on the page and give you ideas. So you have to think about it rather than just push a button and you have like thousands of blog posts just thrown out there like diarrhea all over the website. It doesn't work. And so I always like to, I'm a very slow, methodical, logical kind of person. And I like to step back and look at the big picture first. What do I need to
Yeah.
put in here? What tools, resources do I have? And then go back. And you can also, there's a thing called tree of thought. If you go into some of the papers, anyone here in the chat, if you're on, go Google tree of thought. And it's basically, you give the AI prompt to some information, it gives you something back. And you give that same information back to the AI and say, think about what you just gave me. How could you improve it? So I'm constantly going back and forth with AI, giving it information. It gives me stuff back. How can I improve it? And sometimes it's just completely rubbish. I'll go back and bring it back on track. But you have to know what you're asking it, and you always have to inspect what you expect as well. So anyone here heard about tree of thought? Matt, you probably have.
I haven't heard about that phrase, but it's almost like I'll do a little bit of that in ZimWriter, where you get, and you can do it two ways. Like, you can feed what the AI wrote back in, and then have it do something with it. Whether it's like you ask for a list, and you're like, is this actually a list? Or did you create a comma separated list? Or is this, it's hard to explain. Like, sometimes the AI can't do multiple things. And so you'll have the AI expend its brain power, its finite resources to do this one thing. And then you use that to kind of feed back in and either improve upon it or build upon it or something like that, because a lot of people, they'll go to ChatGPT and they'll have this big wall of, it's not only, it would be, I talked about this in the last presentation, it would be a lot of subjective words, which are fluffy words that the AI isn't going to give you consistent output like Honey's talking about. You'll put it in 10 times, you'll get 10 different types of results. But it'll be this long prompt, and there'll be all these directions, and there'll be these subjective words. And in reality, it's such a complicated thing you're asking the AI to do. You kind of need multiple steps. And some of those steps might need to be feeding the stuff back in, like you're talking about with the tree of thought. Other things that I'll do inside of ZimWriter is, if you really want to get good with working with the AI on the programming side, you really need to know regular expressions, because you can then look at the result and say, did you give me, like, if you're asking for a list of 3 things, sometimes the AI will give you that list, but then it will give you like a blurb of text at the beginning, like, here's your list of things that you asked for. And if you try to use that list, you now have this extra text on top. And that can throw off if you're trying to program stuff, what you're doing. So there's a lot of like analyzing the output from a programmatic standpoint, and also feeding it back in to dial it in more.
Now, are you guys using another, like we use Grammarly Pro also in this process? Are you guys using something like that too, with the output of the text from AI? Any kind of third party double check, whatever?
Are you asking all of us, or?
Yeah, just in general.
Yes, we use Pro Writing Aid, and we use Grammarly Pro. And actually, I just downloaded Grammarly Pro, like the extension in Chrome. And so it automatically, because we use ZimWriter, and then we also have a way that it just auto loads to our site as posts, then I can go in and open up that page, even in a block editor, and Grammarly will go in and fix it right there on the page. And then we can just
we do the same
schedule
thing.
it. We do it to schedule. We schedule all our posts so we have time to go in and fix them.
Okay, cool.
You know what AI has been really good for me in the past is I've had a new client last year, and they have all these blog posts, and it's just stuff everywhere. There's no rhyme or reason to it. And some of them are good, but they're maybe only 500 words or so, but they're good by itself. But then I'll take another one. I know, Terry, you do this too. You combine old posts that don't get much traction, and you combine them together. But I'm asking AI to scan through the content, and it will tell me what this is about and have it suggest topical clusters. So I know which ones are not getting that many impressions in Search Console. So I'll take all those and see which of these, I have an idea how they should be grouped, and it will actually tell me these blog posts are of the same topic, semantically close, and it will rewrite that and maybe throw it through ZimWriter too. to make a better blog post. So yeah, that's a little bit of work that you would do in the past that you can give AI to do. But it's all about, like we're saying all throughout here, it's all about how you talk to the AI, what instructions you give it, because it's like a genius, like a 5-year-old or 8-year-old genius. It knows a bunch of stuff, but it's not very world savvy. So you have to tell it, like, this is how the world works. So yeah, AI is powerful, and it's not the shortcut. It is not the easy button for sure. And anyone that does that is just kidding themselves. And, no, fortunately, if you do that, then I'll be able to take more share from your clients if you have.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's one of the biggest things that I teach in my class is that you have to think about content differently these days. You can't. It's no longer a haphazard thing.
No.
I think that I don't think. Probably 6 months ago, Salterra, we started writing everything in clusters. We don't do individual blog posts anymore. We don't write a blog post about a hot water heater and then a blog post about a leaky toilet. We write 10 about hot water heaters. We write 10 about leaky toilets, or, and then, what I'm going to teach in my time at spring training is I'm going to teach how we're also clustering schema together for these same blog posts. So, it kind of ties everything in. But I think that's the biggest thing that one of my favorite things is to ask, give me 10 topics around this thing for this purpose. And it does very well. And we even started going in, we had one site got hit from the helpful content update. And we just went in and put that page content in ChatGPT and said, make it more helpful. Reposted it, so, and it made some pretty cool changes that we didn't even think of, especially when we had the original content. We've been looking at this content for a couple of years, so we didn't kind of see anything different that we could do. Oh, hey, let's do this. Well, let's see what ChatGPT says to do with it, So, and that's the kind of stuff that we like to do with it. But it's awesome. I mean, that's at least for our standpoint. But like I said, all my content writers are editors, prompt engineers now. I mean, we just changed them over to a different thing. They can still write great, which means they should be able to edit better. So,
what's your biggest time suck when it comes to working with local clients and making the content? Like if you are,
go ahead.
Oh, like if you're generating the content, and you can generate blog posts, you can generate local content, for local pages. Like when it comes to generating the content using AI, like what's your biggest time sink right there, as opposed to other types of AI content?
I don't think we've gotten pretty quick. I think yesterday I was talking to one of my head editors, and she did 20 or 2 different clusters in about 4.5 hours. Where our time suck is the images for those 20 blogs. So, because it's part of our SOPs, I want a different image for every blog post. I don't want to keep grabbing from the media file that's been there for 2 or 3 years. So that's why we're trying to get more things figured out because we use DALL-E and ChatGPT. Thanks for writing these 10 articles. Now give us 10 images for these articles. It does pretty cool stuff, but we're so basic in images. I'd rather have them more kind of realistic than cartoonish and that type of stuff.
Right. I'm that same way. It's just not realistic enough.
Exactly.
It just seems a little too cartoony.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, my biggest hang up is that I wish that when we were like doing Grammarly or whatever, that it had like an accept all button, like just accept all changes instead of having to go in there and like accept.
Yeah. Exactly.
I hate that part.
Yeah.
If there was like an accept all button, I would be extraordinarily happy.
Well, one thing that's cool about Grammarly Pro is I know my staff that doesn't use it, and we catch them very quickly. It's like, why do I bring up this blog and all this blue shit's here? So,
right.
It obviously didn't get filtered through. So, but I think for us anyways, we've gotten pretty good at the content through, through ZimWriter, And then, we're still do topics and stuff. And we'll go in. The main things I ask ChatGPT about something is give me the top 10 LSI keywords, top 10 entities, and top 10 semantic terms. And then we include that within the prompts of, what we put into ZimWriter and everything else as we go through. So, but I think that's the biggest. Image side is a hang up for our SOP. I think I love about ZimWriter is it throws stuff into Google Drive while we continue to write. So it's like, okay, hey, there's a whole bunch of stuff up here ready to go. Let's go grab that stuff while we're writing this next cluster and stuff. So,
and the thing about images, I realized there was an app called Google Lens. I think it's still active on my phone.
It's still active on mine too.
Yeah, I believe it's only Android. So if you have don't have a real phone, then you're out of luck. So buy an Android. And
I have an iPhone, and Google Lens works on iPhone.
Oh, it does. Okay, then I take it back. I'm just giving you a hard time.
You have to use the Google app and not the Chrome app. They have a Google app, and that's what Google Lens works on.
Okay.
On Apple devices.
I thought it was crazy how, and this was, I don't know when it was, like 3, 4, 5 years ago. I was playing around with it, and it may have been at one of the spring training. Like, when was the first one, Terry? 2018?
2019.
2019. I think I had a slide on there. I took a picture of my cat, right? And it's not, and there's, if you don't know cats, and there's just a cat. And my wife is a cat lady, and like, I guess I'm a cat dad now as well, by virtue of that. And I took a picture of my cat, and I went to Google Lens expecting to identify it as a cat. And it did, but what blew me away was it knew what kind of cat it was. It said, this is, I believe, is a Maine Coon cat. Like, oh my gosh. I mean, anyone who doesn't really know much about cats going, it's just a cat with a tail, a fluffy cat. But no, it's a Maine Coon. So that to me made me realize that I need to really focus on what's inside the image. You can't just say, I've seen, and Terry probably knows the client I'm talking about, but I'm not going to bring them up here. They have an SEO agency, and it's an HVAC client. And they were putting pictures of a room for supposedly to reflect this is a nice, cool, comfortable room. But my gosh, there's furniture in there. There's people, there's kids. Is it a furniture page that you're trying to write about? Because there's sofas and tables and lamps. So that type of thing, Google has no idea what's that page, how that page reflects on that, or that image reflects of the page. So if Google can't figure out what's on that, then you're just kind of wasting your time doing images. There is a piece in schema that Terry, you probably know about this, called representative of page. It's a property in schema for image, and it's representative of page. It's a yes or no Boolean. So what that tells me is that if you can find an image that represents a page, set that Boolean in the schema. Again, it's called representative of page. You can look it up in schema.org. So images to me are one of the biggest things. It just helps Google make that connection between what's in the image, what's on the page, and what's in its knowledge graph. It's all about relationships of entities. So you take nothing away from what I've rambled on for the past half an hour so far. It's relationships between known entities in the knowledge graph and what's on your website. Relationships of entities, and that's the takeaway for me.
For sure, 100%. And it gets matter of fact, I just did a huge test. I did a 10 piece cluster. It was more of an indexing test to see how fast I can get stuff indexed today. And I loaded it up on Thursday. I had like 5 by Saturday articles, then like 7 on Monday. Still have 2 articles that still aren't indexed, but I only had 1 image indexed. And I used all AI generated DALL-E images for these, and they look cartoonish. The words in the image were misspelled, all the crap that, the AI image stuff does. So I also thought that, and I just checked this morning, and I still only have 1 image out of all those articles in the image pack for that keyword. It's crazy.
Do you put that image in your open graph, like open graph image? Put that in there?
No, this is without any schema so far. It was strictly just to see what would index. And I never checked images before. So this is the first time I checked images. But
it's not schema, but the open graph. If you use SEO Press, you can set your open
Mhm.
graph image.
Yeah, that's all set. Yeah, that's all.
And then the DC, what does DC stand for? Dublin Core.
Yeah, Dublin Core is already on.
Yeah,
so definitely. That's why I like it. One of the reasons I like SEO Press Pro. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting. So I'm going to keep an eye. I'm not going to do anything else to that site to see if these images kind of just show up one day or.
Well, I'm talking about images, a lot about images in my talk, and I'm not going to go into everything I know here because you'll just have to wait and see. But I am curious to be able to look at your setup, Terry, and see how it differs from mine.
Okay.
Because I don't have a problem. But I'm not using AI images right now, and that's a good idea. So I'll look into doing that. But that's a good test.
Yeah, I think so too. And like I said, I never even paid attention before, and I was like, oh, okay. So because if I go back and look at older blog posts, yeah, the images are mostly there. So
yeah,
one thing I've been doing, I got some different projects I'm working on, and I found that if you can, like two examples, if you can use a particular style for an image, like as an example, let's say you're doing an image of an animal. Okay, the AI might struggle with that, or it might come across as artificial or something like that. So maybe you have a veterinarian's office or something like that, and it's a little bit harder with local clients because they kind of want those professional images. But in a situation where they'd be okay if they didn't have those professional images, you can apply a style and say, hey, I want the image of the cat to be in origami, or I want the image of the cat to be in crayon or something like that. And it doesn't, again, work with all local people, but it would work better with more like informational type of articles for a national, website or something. Or if I had a user yesterday, they were, so the styles can like mask those visual imperfections that like our eye would be looking for, because it's no longer a photorealistic image. It's an image in the style of origami or a crayon. And then I had a user yesterday saying, they had a client that dealt with, what do you call it? Plastic surgery. And like any type of those images are either going to be screwed up fingers or hands, or they're going to be banned for, use the word skin and you use the word body or belly or something, it's going to be flagged. So you kind of think outside the box, how can I generate AI images of that, very easily without, with reducing the likelihood of them getting flagged. You think about, okay, maybe I'll do a medical image of a group of fat cells, because somebody that wants liposuction, for instance, they can see the image of the belly, or they could see like a group of fat cells, and the fat cells won't be flagged, and they could, like a 3D image of fat cells. So it wouldn't be like grossing you out. But that would be a way to overcome the flagging and the poor quality images, because who knows what a fat cell looks like.
Yeah, I'm going to share some techniques, that I've used to help generate some really good images. In my talk, I'll share that because it's pretty powerful. The images are getting better and they're coming a long way. And I treat it a lot like, Matt was saying, you have to learn how to feed it. It's prompt engineering at a different level.
Yeah.
Right. So now it's for images. Before it was for text, and there's processes, and some of them are very similar to the processes that we've developed in working with text. Also works with images. No, I'll share some of that with you, Terry, offline.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, because it's Chad Michaels Lawson's going to teach us how he did all the baseball images for all the speakers. Those are really freaking cool too. So when you can do some stuff around that. So it's just like I said, that's our big. We still use deposit photo. We're still so old school when it comes to images. It's just that's our next goal.
I don't think there's anything really wrong with that, and I have techniques that I use to kind of change those up and make them SEO better. And it's great ways to change content on the page for clients where it's real difficult to change clients. And I'm going to go over all those techniques. I'm going to try to.
Oh, we lost her.
Yeah, she froze or something. Up, honey.
Oh, gone.
Yeah, Lee kicked her off. So, time to work.
It's like watching YouTube videos. I was going to mention something. I don't know what's in Honey's presentation, so I'm excited to go see that one. That's
There
kind
you
of
go.
I don't know what happened. I got booted.
Yeah, we figured Lee said
or something.
we figured Lee just came up and said, "Okay, time's up. Get your ass to work."
He's like, don't talk about that.
Yes, I was going to mention that because I'll be talking about entities. It's kind of a very nerdy subject, and
My
I'm
favorite subject.
trying to and as if you're an engineer watching this or anyone who's at spring training, if you have even the slightest interest in like engineering or a few brain cells that are engineering left brain related, you'll get this. But everything, so understand that Google search algos are written by data scientists, software engineers, techno nerds, right?
Yeah.
So they think very logically. Now, Matt's a software designer, has got some skills. Terry, you've done some. Honey, I don't know if you've ever done coding or anything. Maybe that's a Lee thing. I don't know.
I have not, but that was one of the first things that I was like had to learn is the language. So that was what really helped me with SEO is that everybody was speaking sort of a foreign language and they were like, go learn HTML and go. So I learned a whole bunch of different terms just so that I could understand the language. Because like you said, it's a different language, a different terminology. And, but if you have a logical brain, if you work in that logical mind, it clicks real easy for you. And I think that's the reason why Lee thought, oh, you're going to be, perfect for this because you have the brain that operates that way, that takes in this information easy and understands it.
Yeah.
So I guess where my mind is once I figured out SEO is very logical. It's a process, a very logical process. And all you're doing from like one core essence principle I always go by is my job is to make Google's job the easiest possible in terms of clock cycles, CPU cost to go figure out what my page is all about. If it's too many things on the page, then Google is confused. Is it about AC repair? Is it about heating repair? What's it all about on the page? So exactly what it's looking for and how to very clearly, and Schema can help with this, of course, very clearly relate what's on the page that it's reading through and what's in the knowledge graph. And it goes, oh, that makes sense. That will make all the nerds with the propeller hats very happy because it just takes so long for them to go figure stuff out. It's when you start to go through a page and you're adding all this rubbish that makes no sense. It's just fluff content. It's gibberish going. It's like if you were trying to read something, just reading through a page, and I don't understand what this page is all about, and you lose interest, and you go off to another website. That's what Google's doing. If it can't figure out what's on there, it leaves. It gives up. It says, okay, 404 or whatever. No, nothing found. So I always like to, with images, with schema, with title tags, headings, everything, it's all very tightly contained to semantically close entities. Now, I'll go back to AI. I'll have them go and tell me, are these semantically close or not? If not, then it goes out. Even ones where, let's say if you have, say, a personal injury, you have injury on the page, but if it's not in the right context, injury is such a generic term. I cut my finger, that's an injury. I broke my leg, that's an injury. So is it an injury from a slip and fall? So it's important to get these entities close enough to each other that they're semantically close, that it can be picked up versus just injury out here in the wilderness, So it's all about
exactly. It's perfect. It's like apple, right? Is it apple the fruit or apple, the tech product? And it all has to do with what it's surrounded, the information, the words that are used around it.
Yeah, I mean, there's two things about Google. One, it can't read, and two, it doesn't guess very well. So
correct.
And so that's where a lot of times, and especially when I have people, when I'm doing audits on other people's websites is, Google, you have an identity crisis with Google. Google doesn't know where to place you. That's why when you look at I tell people all the time, pay attention to what you rank for on page 7, 8, 9, and 10, because that's going to show you items and keywords that you either really don't want to have nothing to do with. So you need to figure out why you're being associated with that term, or new terms that you might not have thought of that you want credit for. So I see so many SEOs or agencies or freelancers just spend so much time on page 1 and 2, they miss the bigger picture about what's going on with the entire website. And it's
Correct.
and I think that's super important. So anyway, real quick question, Matt, and then we'll talk a little bit about spring training. So for a piece of software like ZimWriter to have a button there after an article, or say create me 10 images or whatever, it seems to me from a software side, that's a huge bandwidth issue compared to just creating text. When you start creating images, is it, as far as, I don't know how all these things work, I know ChatGPT is super slow at images compared to text. So I was just thinking maybe like a SaaS product would have the same problem.
So what's the question?
Well, I was just wondering if ZimWriter decided to have an image button saying, okay, now create me 10 images for these 10 articles. From a SaaS product standpoint, or an owner of a SaaS product, it seems like that would be a bandwidth issue for that product.
If I were to create that, would it cause a bottleneck, you're saying?
Well, either a bottleneck, or you'd have to rethink your server processes or something when you go into creating something non-text.
No. So okay. What's nice is, and I think I'm for something I'm working on right now, I think I am going to have some kind of a feature. I don't know how far I'll extend it, but it will hopefully generate like 4 variations if you're using Stable Diffusion, because Dolly's freaking expensive. It's like 8 cents or 12 cents an image, but Stable Diffusion is like a fourth of a penny or something like that. But I would like to have a button where you can feed it stuff, whether it's a title or something like that, or a subheading, and it will give you like 4 different choices of images and whatnot, and then you can select which one you want. But generating the images is not a bandwidth issue, because the AI is generating all that stuff. So either Stable Diffusion is going to generate it, or Dolly's going to generate it, and then you're essentially they actually return it as a I don't say encrypted, but like a base 64 code string. The image is actually returned from them as a string of letters and numbers, I think. And then we just decrypt that essentially, and it becomes the image. So it's very quick from a processing standpoint, like on our end, but from a generation standpoint, it can take a few seconds.
That's cool. So I mean, it's, again, I'm thinking of it, from a software tech guy. I was technical director for Phelps Dodge Corporation, which was a huge mining company, and I just remember the server farms in there going, so I'm sure that's all different nowadays, but old school, you're like, okay, we're going to have to add 20 servers here just to do images.
Well, and what I think, where I see like the next, like if you were to say, Matt, where's AI going to be in 5 years? AI is going to be on your desktop. People, I don't know how much we're going to be paying like these other service providers like OpenAI or I don't know what the other, Gemini or whatnot. They're going to be these locally hosted models, and we'll have the latest and greatest like NVIDIA card, and that will generate our images for us. And it may be, if you are an agency, maybe you have to have a couple computers or a cloud solution for generating a lot of images quickly. But I think it's all going to be local, and that will be a potential performance bottleneck.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it's and that's one of the things I love talking to people about is what everybody thinks of the future of AI, and up to a point. I do think that I think a lot of people are trying to find different ways to not necessarily take advantage of it, but get on the bandwagon and do some different things. Kind of have a what if scenario if SEO takes a turn. Now I'm over here in this AI world. But I don't know. It's an interesting topic. I still think it's super new. It's changing daily. One of the reasons why I didn't want to go into Gemini and all the other text writers, so to speak, or text scrapers, We just chose to just kind of master ChatGPT. But again, I know we're also looking at different ways to make the whole process better and easier. So as an agent.
One of the big problems, and this is another, if you were to say like, what's the benefit of having a locally hosted model, is a lot of these companies are, very worried about what are you going to generate with them, whether it's going to be like an image. And a lot of these, yes, there's some bad images you can generate, but there's other images. Like if you're a doctor and you want like an image of like cancer treatment or something like that, that's a very valid image. But Gemini is a great example. I went to Gemini and I said, Gemini, generate me a list of questions for an IQ test. And Gemini said, no, can't do that. You have to go to school for that. You have to be a doctor to figure all that stuff out. And I'm like, let's pretend. Come on, please, just like, no, we're not even going to hypothetically do it. I'm like, please. And then I'm like, why am I paying you $20 a month? Because this is like the Gemini Pro one. And so I went to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT, it said, hey, you really should be a doctor, but, here's some questions you could do. So a lot of and, maybe Google, they have so many lawyers, and so everything has to pass through the whole chain before it finally gets approved. OpenAI doesn't have that. But it just shows you that all of these models are somehow neutered in a way and are going to restrict what you're able to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. And we still have the whole copyright thing that's going on in America too. I mean, that's I don't know what's going to happen with that, but we're seeing other countries take steps to kind of protect that type of stuff. And I think, as always, we always take it to the 100th level, extreme side. So that part will be interesting too. So anyways, let's switch gears here a little bit. Simon, I think you've been at every spring training. What are you looking forward to this year? And what are you going to enlighten us with?
I'll be talking mainly about entities and probably encroach upon schema because it's just so close and the overlap. You can't really separate them. So making things super easy to understand. My I guess struggle that I see people with is that they're getting in the weeds too much and they don't see the forest for the trees. They're just seeing all these little things and it's so discombobulated. So my talk is going to be, let's go back to basics. Let's talk about the essence of what is an entity, what's a knowledge graph, some of the basics, because sometimes if you lose sight of the basics, then everything else is just a blur and you don't know why you're doing it. So I would challenge people with, why are you doing, like for a good example would be, why is your title tag 57 characters? Well, because Yoast said it was too long, it was more than 57 characters. Okay, but why? So I like to ask people lots of why questions. The other thing is, every speaker I listen to, like I was at another event just a few weeks ago, there's some topics that were not that interesting to me because I choose not to focus on something. But that doesn't mean to say I can't take something away from that particular speaker, which I did. I hear their mindsets, the way they think about stuff, the way they approach stuff. My goodness, if you've heard Matt speak before, he was telling me some things the other week that, well, that's so simple. Why didn't I think of that before, type of thing, like, duh. So sometimes you miss these simple things because you're all up in the mess. And then, honey, I've heard us speak at spring training before. Same thing there. Sometimes the most simple things that you pick up can make the biggest difference. So take lots of notes. If you buy the replays, watch it 2 or 3 or 4 times. And then I would also say what's helped me a lot over the years, and Terry, you and I go back for years on this, we've masterminded over the years a lot. So find people to mastermind with, bounce these ideas off of people, and to get the understanding, try and train it to people. Obviously, don't spill the secrets, but talk to people and get the ideas out of your head into practice. So that's my key takeaways there.
Yeah, 100%.
Also, sorry, not to interrupt. Ask good questions.
Yeah.
The better question you ask, the better result you get. So ask better questions. That's been one of the things I've had in my ingrained in my retina for the past whatever years, like since high school, is ask better questions.
For sure, 100%. And this year, the format being different, where we're going to have the stage in the morning And then in the afternoon, we're going to have the mastermind breakout rooms. I'm super excited about the breakout rooms because I'm a whiteboard guy. Simon's a whiteboard guy. So, we're going to be able to sit there and draw in these little rooms compared to being on a stage in a big room. It'll be a little bit different. So a little bit more, a little bit more personal, all that kind of stuff. So super cool. Well, Honey Witcher gets the credit for making Terry cry at the only SEO conference I've ever been to. So what are you looking forward to, Honey, and what are you gonna enlighten us with? I know you told us a little bit about it already.
Right. Well, like Simon, it really comes back to going to the basics and really thinking logically about everything that you do. And I'm also going to help people who work with really difficult clients where it's hard for them to get content approved and things like that. And you need to move some items quickly on the page. And maybe you're not a schema master and you can't write this gigantic schema. What are some really quick, easy things that you can do that makes a big difference on a website? And that's and it's related to images, and that's what I'm gonna talk about.
That's awesome. That's cool. Last year you guys came and we had a blast. One of the big things we were all about is networking. I got to know more about Honey and Lee that weekend than I have all the years that we've known each other. And it's and that only happens at these live events. And one of the reasons why we choose the venues that we do is because we want it to have good networking space. We want to have the bar stay open. We want to have good food. We want to be able to, the speakers all stay on site. So we want to be able to have people be able to just spend time and build those relationships because they're priceless. I can tell you that right now. So, Mr. Matt, what are you looking forward to? And Matt is also a sponsor. Thank you for that. We've got some great sponsors this year. I'll tell you what, swag is going to be off the freaking chart. So you'll probably have to ship stuff home if you come to the live event. There's the Spring Training Cup. Those are coming back this year. So
it's my favorite cup.
Exactly. Yep. Ours too. So tell us a little bit about what you're going to talk about, Matt, and what you're looking forward to.
Yeah. So I'm really, this will be, I think my second or third conference. And, I've found my third or fourth conference, I've found so much value in going to these things, like being completely honest. Like if I don't even have a local SEO agency and I'm going to these, I'm like, man, I kind of want to start a local SEO agency, but there's so much that I've learned that I can apply even without a local SEO agency. So like, if you're just in the space of marketing or SEO, there's so much to learn from these conferences, from the people, not just the presentations are nice, but when you can actually talk to the experts that are making, 5, 6, 7 figures a month, you're like, how are you doing this? Or how can you look at my stuff? So I'm really looking forward to that. The ones that I've been to already are phenomenal. So that's what I'm looking forward to most. In terms of what I'm talking about, I've had a lot of people ask about, and this is probably really applicable to local people, brand voice. Everybody wants the AI to talk a little bit less than a little less like the AI and more like somebody different. And there's limits on how you can have the AI right on what you can do. But those limits, a lot of people don't know them. They want them to write a specific way, but they don't really know how to go about doing that in a consistent manner, in a way that they can, repeatedly apply it and whatnot. So, like ZimWriter, we recently added a style mimic to do that. But there's more ways that you can have the AI write in your brand's voice, your client's voice. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and then also give some more pointers on prompting in general.
Awesome. Yeah, that's going to be super cool. Because we're starting to look at the AI chat programs that are out there. There's some really cool, AI chat programs for appointment setting and, stuff like that. So all that kind of stuff is just it's all just going to keep, moving into this bigger space. And, and when you start learning prompt engineering and you start learning from these people that are doing things that you never thought of before, it's pretty freaking crazy. So that's really awesome. So, So we're a couple weeks away. So looking forward to this thing. We have great sponsors this year. This is actually the first year we've really opened sponsorship up. Last year was more of a just like personal one-on-one type of thing. But this year, we're super excited about the sponsors. We're super excited about the layout of the conference itself. We had over 100 people want to speak at this conference. So I actually brought in Clint as a host to help me figure all this stuff out, which has been a huge help because there's nothing worse. And, I want everybody to speak at our event, but, some of the people that spoke at past spring trainings are going to be in the audience this year. So, that's really cool also. There's obviously, I can't have an 8-day conference like we did for COVID digital, but, I can still try to introduce people to, different speakers with different thoughts, different processes. And depending where you're at in your walk of your business, you can pick and choose what you want to go see. I'm going to be talking about how even more important it is to organize your website with siloing and content and stuff like that nowadays than any other time. So it's and I'm going to talk about schema. This will be the first SEO spring training I've actually talked about schema. That's pretty crazy. So anyways, any last minute advice, tips, tricks, anything for anybody? Oh, one other thing. If you guys are on the fence about coming or not, then talk to me, message me, do whatever. The one thing I tell people is if you come to SEO spring training and you come for a specific reason and that reason isn't fulfilled, tell me and I'll get it fulfilled. So that's the biggest thing. So I know a lot of us are introverts and we don't want to put ourselves out there to ask questions and do stuff like that. So if you're that type of person and you want to get help, just talk to me. I'll get you in touch with the right people.
I would add, Terry, because I used to be this person. I would be a conference addict. I'd go to I forget the term. Anyway, there was a term for it. We go to all these conferences. You make a lot of friends, have a really good time, lots of rah-rah, take notes and stuff. Come back, you're all pumped and you're hyped. And then 2 weeks later, go, what's that? That conference was great, but you haven't done anything. You didn't make any changes. Mm-hmm. I always encourage people to, if they just pick out one, it doesn't have to be everything. Pick out one thing from every person's speech that you can apply it the same day or when you get back. Make a commitment because it's that action of doing the habit of taking action. It's like exercising a muscle. You go into a gym, you're working out. Take one thing, put it into action. Don't have to do everything because if you try to boil the ocean, you'll just make everyone upset and you'll get nowhere. But take one thing, implement it. And then next week, take another thing, implement it and see how it works. And my golly, that would get you out of that mindset of being one of these people that just travels to seminars and you see them all the time, but they never take action. So that's my takeaway is just take some bloody action, mate.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the whole thing too. If you absolutely can't come, we totally understand. There is a live feed this year, but the live feed is going to be at speaker discretion. So if the speaker doesn't want to be live fed, it won't be live fed. So that's always been our rule. It's up to them. One of the biggest reasons we're doing the live feed this year is because in 2020, we had 900 people from around the world come through our digital event. And we understand that there's people in certain countries that just can't travel. We get that. So pick up the live feed. It also comes with recordings. I'm not selling recordings separate, so I'm not going to go through that. We did that last year. That was a nightmare. But this way we'll keep everybody going. I do see one question here for Matt. Hold on real quick. Any chance ZimWriter can sort brand info bit like ChatGPT session? Contact detail, menus, service locations, etc. for multiple clients, so we can pick which client we are writing for. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so it depends on what you're using inside of ZimWriter. If you use the advanced triggers, there's a background section that you can put in. I forget what the limit is, but you can kind of like seed the brain and then save that, you contact details, service locations, all that stuff, kind of what you offer, your USPs. You put all that in the background, you can save it. and then you can load it when you use your advanced triggers, your magic commands and things like that, or magic menu, and then pull that up as you're writing content. It's a little trickier in long form, like in a long form blog post, because in this kind of, I don't want to take a lot of time here, but it gets into the weeds. When you start telling the AI, hey, here's some extra information about our company, use it while you write about the blog post of how to fix a washer dryer. Sometimes, like when you give AI a lot of stuff, it's going to try to use all that stuff. And so in each subsection about how to fix your dryer, it might mention your company. And it's not going to be a good reading experience. So the better advice would be to create a custom prompt with kind of like a call to action that you'd apply just to the conclusion that, after it goes through how to DIY fix your own washer dryer, at the bottom it would modify your conclusion. It would say, by the way, if this seems too hard for you, call us. We're ABC, washer dryer crew, and we can fix your washer dryer or something like that. So there's different tips and tricks. Reach out in the Facebook group and I can give you more pointers.
Yeah. Good advice. Yeah, the Facebook group is gold. Matt's always involved in the Facebook group, which is one thing I love about that whole system. So, anything else? Anybody got anything, honey? Anybody?
Be careful. You mentioned the chat bots. Just be careful with chat bots, Terry. You read about that. You read about that thing with Canada. Mm-hmm. Like Air Canada, and it promised some guy whose spouse or mom or something died that they could get refunded for the trip, and they're like, oh, this is great. And so they bought the ticket, went on the trip, tried to get refunded, and they said, no, you're not allowed to do that. And they're like, well, the chatbot said I could. Went to court, and then they had to honor it. So if your chatbot starts telling you stuff, oh yeah, we'll service your stuff for free, you could be on the hook for that.
Yeah, exactly right. That's probably why we haven't pulled the trigger yet. We've seen a couple of them, and I like to try to trick them too, because they're easy to tell. And it'll say, hey, and after the third or fourth, interaction with them, I'll ask them like, what's 3 + 3? Kind of throws them off, real quick, because it's either, most of them are canned responses, of course, but there's ones coming out now that can answer that question, which now, like you said, now it's getting into the realm of when does it cross borders as far as, no, you can't do this and you can only do this. And no, I get it 100%. It's one of the things that's, I'm following a couple people that are really doing a lot with it, and we'll see. I do like the idea of just everything being automated, because that's my goal this year, is to automate my entire life somehow. Everything. Yeah, just everything. You wake up, it's all done. So
Jetsons, right?
Exactly right, Jetsons for sure. Make me a roast beef sandwich in 30 seconds.
I think my advice to people who are coming to the live event is, when you see a whole group of people who are all sitting around and talking to each other, insert yourself into that group.
For sure. 100%.
Like, insert yourself into that group. And because that's where you're going to get probably your best connections, are, a group of people. When you see Terry and Matt and Lee and I, in a little group, and you're thinking, oh, I don't want to interrupt. Like, come in and sit down.
Just sit down. I mean, that's the whole thing. Yeah. Nothing's private. And a lot of people, open up a lot more as the night goes on, so to speak. But it is, like I said, it is, I'm all about the live one. The digital one was great, but the live one, when you can see everybody and, and create these relationships that just last a long time. We travel now to see our SEO people without even SEO events. Elizabeth and I traveled to Dallas, and we spent time with, Jill and Simon, and it wasn't around anything SEO. Simon and I just wanted to see what we could come up with software wise, and that was how we played. So Jill and Elizabeth got to do some weird stuff, but Simon and I are in front of his big whiteboard. But anyway, so yeah, no, it's if you can make it, that'd be awesome. If you can't, get the virtual ticket. But then you got to make it next year. So this year is kind of our springboard. This is our 5th one. Next year, it's really going to be freaking crazy. So we're already planning it. We're going to announce some things at this spring training for next year too. So anyways, thank you everybody for coming. I really, really appreciate it. We're going to do a few more of these next week. I think I have a few more speakers that we haven't introduced yet. But yeah, if you have any questions, reach out to Elizabeth and I. We're pretty easy to get available and pretty easy to get a hold of. And we're happy to talk to you. So anyways, thank you guys for coming and sharing your knowledge and talking all about this kind of stuff.
Thanks
Thanks, everyone. See you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Bye.